What's up, bro? Hope you're doing well. Today, I want to tell you all that I've learned about habits in the last year and how you can use habits and their inner workings to your advantage. So, the first thing we have to ask ourselves is why do we have habits? What is their role? And the fundamental thing or role that habits have is that they save energy. For example, if you had to relearn to brush your teeth every single day, then you'd be expending a lot of energy because you'd have to learn it every single day. But if it becomes a habit, then you do it basically automatically every single day, and you will benefit from it. Now that we understand that, we have to ask ourselves, what are habits made of? Like, how are they structured? And I've read two books about this, The Power of Habit and Atomic Habits, and I've come to the conclusion that there are four steps to a habit, or four stages. First stage is a cue, second stage is a craving, the third stage is the routine, and the fourth stage is the reward. Now, let's first look at some examples and then we'll dissect each of these independently. A good example of a good habit would be, for example, meditation. The cue is that maybe you get home. For me, it's after drumming. So when I get my drumming session done every single day, that's the cue for, hey, now it's time to go meditating. The craving part is when you crave the action. The routine is when you actually do the action. And last but not least, the reward is the thing that you're seeking with the action. So for meditation, it would be a cue. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm done with drumming, and now it's time to meditate. Craving is the need to meditate. The routine is doing the meditation itself, and the reward is a boost in mindfulness. And then there's the bad habits as well. For example, video games. Cue might be that you're sitting at your desk. A craving might be like, ooh, I want to play some video games. The routine is actually playing the video games, and the reward is, hey, I've played my video games, I'm fulfilled, I'm content, I've wasted some time, but whatever. So that's how the habits are structured. Let's get into these specific stages in a little bit more detail. So let's start with the cue. The cue is probably the most important part of the habit because that is actually where it starts. So a cue, the interesting thing is a cue can be anything, okay? A cue can be a location, a person, a specific time of the day, and it, as I said, it can be legit anything. If you're at a specific location, you might get the urge to do something that you wouldn't get in another location. For example, I don't get the urge to meditate at school, for example, and I only get the, how should I say this, a signal to meditate when I'm at home or when I'm at a place that I can really just relax at. These cues are really important for the reason that you have fought half the battle when you see the cue for all your habits. So go deep into thinking for yourself. Stop the video and think, what are the cues to my good habits and what are the cues to my bad habits? Go ahead for that. Why did I tell you that you should be analyzing both the good side and the bad side of the habits? The bad side is pretty obvious. Once you find out the cues to your bad actions, then you can be like, okay, this is the trigger, and now I know of it. Pretty obvious, right? But the good side actually is pretty valuable as well because you can analyze which of the cues are actually leading to good habits. For example, if you have a cue of, okay, it's 3 p.m. and it's time to get meditating, then you might be inclined to get yourself a different time of day, let's say 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., I'm going to work out. Maybe earlier, maybe later, the time doesn't really matter, but the fact that you actually have something that you can latch onto, which in this case would be the time. For some people, it might be location, for some people, it might be the person. I can't really tell it for you, but you can figure it out for yourself. Tying this right in, if you have a bad habit and you want to change it, what would be the best way of going about it? You might be like, "Ooh, I should avoid the queue." Well, that is a possibility, but chances are that the queue is much harder to get rid of. The habit that you have created for yourself, this is actually pretty shocking. It's never going to go away. It will always be inside of you in some way, okay? You can't really get rid of the cue because that's like dug into you. For example, if you came home and you're like, "Ooh, it's time to let's say it's time to play video games for 10 hours a day." Then you're not going to get rid of that cue. The craving, also not getting rid of that. The reward is going to stay the same, but the thing that you could change is a routine. Think about it like this. If you come home and if you're like, "Ooh, I want to play video games." Okay, then you play video games and you've got the reward of being relaxed. Okay? But the thing that you can change in this is the routine. Let's say that you came home, you got the cue, okay, I've come home, I want to relax. And your craving is saying, yeah, I want to get relaxed too. So those two stages are already ticked off. Now you've got a choice to make. Which activity would you participate in to get the reward of being relaxed? You can go with video games, as you always have, or you can go with meditation, for example. That's just an example. But the easiest thing to replace in this four-stage, how should I say this, process, the easiest thing to replace is the routine. Stop the video real quick because I had to burp, sorry about that. But anyway, back on topic. If you try to change the cue, the craving, or the reward, it's much less likely to succeed than the routine because that is basically the easiest part of the whole thing, the process, the change. The reward is basically almost impossible, same for the craving. But you can also change the cue to a certain extent. Not really, but if you just keep away from the cue, for example, you know the cue for playing video games is when you come home from school, for example. If you want to avoid playing video games, then what would you do? You'd go out for a walk. If you're home, then of course you're going to get the craving. But if you are outside, maybe with friends, maybe just going for a walk in nature, I don't really mind. But not triggering the cue is also a way to do it. The problem is there can be quite a lot of restrictions because maybe you have to be at home and you have to do something. So it's basically just running away from the problem and not fixing it straight away. Fixing it is changing the changing the routine of the action. Okay? And now we're gonna get some bonus facts. And these, in my opinion, are really valuable as well. The first one that I've tried is habit stacking. What is habit stacking? It's basically taking two habits, two or more. You can do five even. It doesn't really matter. But you set like a time, for example, that you do this habit, and straight after this habit, you do the other one. I've used this because back in the day, I've had some trouble getting my meditation sessions in sometimes. I'd I have a lot of time in the day, but at the end of the day, I just kind of forgot about it. And since I've been habit stacking with drumming and meditation, as I've mentioned at the end of the video, sorry, at the beginning, I'm really stumbling over my words here. I'm sorry about that. Since then, I have not really missed any of these sessions. So I start drumming at, let's say, 4 p.m. When I'm done with my drumming session, let's say 5 p.m., I go straight into the meditation. And it has worked. I've had zero problems with that. So if you're having issues with sticking to your habits, this is a very cool thing to try out. And now we get to some even more cool stuff, which are keystone habits. What are keystone habits? Keystone habits are basically things that can cause a ripple effect through your whole life. The thing for me has been martial arts. Martial arts has not only improved basically my complete body language. Like I'm not like a block. I'm not like this. I'm pretty open. I move my hands around. I have facial expressions, and martial arts has really given me a big advantage in that. It has caused a ripple effect because of better mood, all of the things that I've already mentioned. And these keystone habits can cause huge improvement in your life. And I mean it. Typical keystone habits, which you might already expect, but exercise, meditation, gratitude journaling, not so much, but those two that I mentioned, exercise and meditation, those two are the main ones that really hammer it down. And I've seen the effects in less than a month when I even started with it at the beginning. And I've been at it for like over a year now. So those are really damn cool. There it is, people. Those are the things that I've learned about habits. The four stages of how a habit works, and all of the other things that I've mentioned, for example, keystone habits and so on and so forth. Those things have really just changed how I perceive habits. You know, if you want to learn more about this, read The Power of Habit and read Atomic Habits by Charles Duhigg and James Clear. Those two people are the authors of the respective books. With that said, I thank you very much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and see you soon.